right here I am sewing the liner. I use a piece of mixed media paper that's like watercolor paper, and I have 1/4 inch marked out around the entire card. It's brown because it's singed from all the ironing. Then I use a piece of cardboard to flip the fabric onto the mixed media paper to make a nice stiff clean line. Then I fold it over a second time and iron it again. I generally use the back side of fabric because it seems to be softer against the face. Pardon as I scramble. For the front side of the material, I iron it right side down and do just a single quarter seam. Now I'm lining up the liner onto the front of the fabric. It's right sides together, and it's 1/4 inch centered in the middle. So it's 1/4 inch on each side of the fabric where I lay down, 1 3/4 inches. I center the liner at 1 3/4 inches from each side to center it. So the two seams are together, but I do leave a small space between the liner and the front because when you flip it, it seems to meet just perfect. Now I'm sewing them together on the non-seam side. Snipping all the threads. Removing the clips. And now I'm ironing it flat. I am not ironing it so the bottom seam is spread open. I'm merely ironing the two pieces open, and then I'll be flipping it and creating a quarter seam across the top. So there's no need to iron it so it's flat on both, open along the seam. It's just folded. And now you're going upside down because I noticed the camera lens was too high up and you couldn't see, so you'll just have to use your imagination. Thank you for your patience. I'm a novice at filmmaking. But as you can see, you just flip it, and now I'm creating a quarter seam with the liner laying flat inside. There's your 1/4 inch showing. Now I'm going to sew the seams side. And for the pocket side, I will sew the seams separately. Struggling with thread. Thank you for your patience. Showing you, I will be sewing the seam on the liner to create the pocket. Back to the ironing board. Removing threads, the most tedious part of sewing as far as I'm concerned. That and ripping out seams. I use a clipboard to create a sharp edge on the folds. I realized the clipboard part was blocking the camera, so I flipped it. So the edge helps create folds. I can do 2, and the third one I have to do off the clipboard, but it's easier to create the first 2. I do create them from the pocket side. Sorry, my camera fell. Then I flip the mask to create the side pockets for the ties. So I do a 1/4 inch-ish, as long as I straighten it, 1/4 inch seam along hem. I'm calling him a seam, it's actually a hem, and then I fold it so that it's flat against the liner. And I do this to both sides. And as you can see, I use my cardboard pieces to create straight edges. This particular sewing machine requires that I use pins in order for the folds to not catch, because this is more of an industrial type sewing machine. On my regular sewing machine, I either use clips or I don't use anything at all. And now I'm sewing the pocket closed, so I'm sewing along the inside edge of the hem. Snip, snip, snip. There's the mask. This is a piece of t-shirt material that I purchased from the fabric store. I usually pre-stretch it because it makes it easier to slide into the pocket. I cut it in half. A Turner inside outer hook thing. So glorious, thank you. And I just hook it in, pull it out, and do the same to both sides. And there you are. A mask with a pocket, ready to wear.